Transmitting to you from Old Heart Radio.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm here. Don't worry. This is an episode of You Snooze, You News. I know that. I was not sleeping on the job. Either way, like I said, welcome to You Snooze, You News. Possibly the world's worst news source, but, you know, that's up to you. It's been another lively batch of days that we've swam through. There's always stuff going on, and that's something you have to realize. It's something that's constantly ongoing. That's one of the reasons why I brought You Snooze, You News from the ashes. Recently, the last two nights, we have had the first two, technically the first, but like split into two, the first Democratic debate. There's just so many Democratic candidates that they had to split it into two nights. There is over 20, I think there's like 21 Democratic candidates, which is absolutely bombastic. It's crazy. It's just too full of a field right now. It reminds me of the 2016 elections where the Republican Party was just stacked with people, and you were literally only running two or three Democrats, Bernie and Hillary, and really I think that was the only ones that mattered. Anyway, also, just since we're talking about the 2016 election real quick, just want to throw this out there. Fuck Gary Johnson. I wonder what he's been up to. I want to look that up. But anyway, back to the Democrats. So the Democratic field is ridiculously full. Like, that swamp is full. Just to name them, the Democratic candidates that stand and that have been put into that first debate, which means they've qualified. They're pushing, they're doing their thing, and they're running for it. There's Michael Bennet, Joe Biden, Bill de Blasio, Cory Booker, Steve Bullock, Pete Buttigieg, Julian Castro, John Delaney, Tulsi Gabbard, Kirsten Gillibrand, Mike Gravel, Kamala Harris, John Hickenlooper, Jay Inslee, Amy Klobuchar, Wayne Messam, Seth Moulton, Beto O'Rourke, Tim Ryan, Bernie Sanders, Joe Seastack, Eric Swalwell, Elizabeth Warren, Marianne Williamson, and Andrew Yang. That's a mouthful, we'll just say. So, like I said, they had to divide them up into two nights, and they were all just competing for very similar things. Like, both nights they said it was like a randomly sorted thing, but there's definitely no way, because the first night they had just a litany of people you probably don't care about. The most important person on the stage in the first night was Elizabeth Warren, and she definitely stood out. I already saw, however, and this is something that pisses me off, I was watching, it was like some CNN commentary on it, and this freaking lady commentator was like talking shit about Elizabeth Warren's stamina. And I was like, bitch, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Like, this is something that fundamentally women have had an issue with in running political campaigns. People attack their endurance and their stamina against their male competitors, and it's like, that doesn't stack up. You want to talk about endurance and stamina? Let's look at the little side piece for Jabba the Hutt that's fucking sitting in the White House right now. That is not somebody of healthy physical condition, despite what the fucking the White House doctor might say. So that was kind of something that just pissed me off about that first. The coverage of that first night. It was like they were talking in terms of popularity and I think comprehensive plan. That first night, Elizabeth Warren shined through. Definitely, she's got the energy, she's got the anger, she's got the know-how. She's fucking smart, and she knows that we need to tackle all of our problems with information and a strategy, and then take it down. And that's what she's like kind of preaching right now, which I really appreciate. The second night, however, was a little more stacked, if you ask me. Mainly because you had Pete Buttigieg, I can't remember how to pronounce it, whatever. Mayor Pete, who is a real newbie, like real newbie, young cat, openly gay man in a marriage, former soldier. He's a fucking veteran, and he's a well-spoken individual, but he's a white guy. So the Democratic Party is kind of hesitant to like fully embrace him, and he's always, and to his credit, he's also just like, he's a mayor of an Indiana town, and that's all he's got behind him. So he's probably not going to go too far. But I think this is the launch of a political career. It's kind of what we're seeing with Jay Inslee, the Washington governor, who I personally have some beef with. But Jay Inslee is just like, he's throwing his hat in the ring. He keeps like doing that thing. He was in the first night, but he keeps throwing his hat in the ring. They can saying things like, "I'm doing this for my kids and my grandkids. I want to look them in the eye and be able to tell them that I did everything I could." And it's like, Inslee, if you wanted to do everything you could, you'd just be focusing on your state. You wouldn't be fucking flouting around trying to become president of the United States. What he's doing right now, and this is something you've seen if you've lived in Washington for long enough, you've seen him take stances and push things through the legislature that he deems important and that he has seen kind of gain popular attention. Not necessarily things that work or things that are actually effective moving forward, but just things that maybe have caught people's eye. And he's trying to be the face of the Green Democratic Party, and it's not gonna play, man. Like I said, you're better off just focusing on your own state and like trying to get stuff here, because he's not like an entirely lost governor. But he doesn't stand a chance of being president. So anyway, moving on back to night two. Night two, like I said, was a little more stacked. We had Mayor Pete, but more importantly, we had fucking Joe Biden. We had Dusty Joe, as the president calls him, doesn't he? Doesn't he call him Dusty Joe? And also, we had Bernie Sanders, and the real couple of surprises, for myself at least, were definitely Kamala Harris and Kirsten Gillibrand. So they both really had some stuff to say. Senator Gillibrand really tried to like hit home on the I'm a woman and I've fought for women and women's health and reproductive rights, which fuck yeah, I'm all for. If I have reproductive rights as a man, a woman should have reproductive rights over her own body as well. So that being said, she was really outspoken, and I appreciated that. Although she came off as kind of, they kind of tried to brush her off to the side a little bit, which I don't know. Kamala Harris, however, was not being brushed off to the side. She wouldn't let her. She is a very well-spoken individual, and she I don't know. She has some stances. She definitely has stances I agree with. She has a little bit of a track record in her past as Attorney General that people have already started pointing at, trying to poke holes in her campaign. But I do actually see Kamala Harris going fairly far if she can keep up her energy and her momentum. I think she can help connect with communities. I think it'd be interesting to see her go up against go up in debates in smaller forums. That's kind of the other thing that's really the shitty about these forums, is that these two nights were so large that it was hard to grasp everybody and their stances. There is this lady, Marianne Williamson, who is just an author and an activist, and her closing statement really shot herself in the foot. But she was just bringing up good points and jabs at the people that were there, because everybody else, except for a couple randoms like Andrew Yang, are involved actively in the government. And so Williamson was up there calling them out. It was actually kind of fucking cool. Will she go far in the race? No. And especially because her closing statement, she was like, Donald Trump, like, preyed on all of our hate, which he definitely did. But she's like, we need to fight him with love, and I'm going to bring the love. And it was just like, no. I'm sorry. No. So, first debate, pretty much a travesty. The first night they had a bunch of mic mess ups that kind of cut attention from him. I just really think that a lot of these candidates, and I hate to say this, but including Bernie Sanders right now, are just harping messages for people. And there's messages and extensions of like these like weird squid-like tentacles that the Democratic Party are throwing out there to see what subjects and what things like climate change and healthcare and fucking foreign policy and gun violence and all these things, like which are going to be the most hot button issues and which candidates press those most hot button issues and get people on their side the most. I don't think Joe Biden is going to survive this. I think the Democratic Party is going to really try and push for him, but through that first debate, he was stuttering and flubbing and overwhelmed, and he did not look like he was ready to be up there. Bernie Sanders was saying the same stuff. Unfortunately, I have the original Stranger cover of Bernie Sanders hanging up above my desk right now. Why? Because that was the first person that I've seen call for a political revolution on such a grand stage, and I believe that that's what we need. But Bernie Sanders, when asked about some of the subjects that kind of made him uncomfortable, he started turning around and going back to the old, we need to take down the big corporations and all that. Now, I don't disagree with that, but that's not everything, Mr. Sanders. Get deep. So overall, I think there's a ton of really non-serious candidates that the Democratic Party are just throwing there to just basically trash talk Donald Trump, which every one of them did basically, except for like a couple of candidates, and I think that was a very specific move. It felt in my opinion, it felt very coordinated with a handful of the individuals and the hosts of the debate, which I think was MSNBC. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm looking forward to seeing how far and what else they, as debates go on. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. But that was just like pretty much a mess and a real rough introduction to the large fucking swamp that is the Democratic presidential candidates. But either way, I wanted to cover today in history. Today is June 28th. That's the day I am recording this You Snooze, You News. And in history today, in 1997, Mike Tyson bit a dude's ear off. That dude's ear was Evander Holyfield, and he went on to win that bout because Mike Tyson was disqualified. But that happened today, on June 28th, 1997. In 1942, not following the Nazi occupation of France, all Jewish people in France over the age of 6 were forced to wear the yellow Star of David, thus identifying them and making them stand out as targets. Don't forget history. In 1820, scientists finally disproved that tomatoes were poison. I still think they are. Yep, so lots of stuff happens on June 28th. One of the current things I was thinking about in current news and history, I couldn't help but just popped into my mind. Recently, I keep reading random reports about artists and musicians sending like cease and desist letters and notes to the White House or to Donald Trump or the Trump organization, all because he's going around to these campaign rallies and the like, and he's using other people's musical properties and other people's works to help promote himself, and a lot of these other people don't agree with him, which is the thing. So I was over on Insider.com, and they last year they published like a list of musicians that have kind of like come out as being like really furious and just like, what the hell, Donald. The first one, this should not surprise anybody, the first musician to tell Trump to go fuck himself and stop using his music was, as a matter of fact, Neil Young. Rihanna has also done that. R.E.M. sent them a cease and desist letter. The Rolling Stones have twice told them to cease all use of their works. Guns N' Roses, Pharrell, Adele, Queen. The Prince estate told them specifically to stop using Purple Rain. Steven Tyler of Aerosmith has sent out letters telling them to stop using their music. And that just got me kind of thinking, like, it's true that, like, it's not like Donald Trump has spent his life creating works of art or creating things that other people recognize or want to use or want to see. Why can't we just start taking away these things? Like, legally, he can't, if it's not in the public domain, like, why is he getting away with using these things? I mean, I think Axl Rose, of all people, had made a mention that his organization and perhaps the venues that he's using are specifically taking advantage of licenses that kind of broad stroke certain musical properties into use, but it's like kind of a loophole that they're using that shouldn't really be working. But that sort of seems to be the thing with Donnie Trump and his campaign and his like whole administration, is that they just find loopholes and they use them until somebody comes along and plugs it and says, nope, can't use that anymore, and then they just find another one. And I understand that. In high school, I was that kid that would read his entire handbook just to find a way to break the rules. But do I think that works for a functioning government? No, I don't think that's a good thing. So that being said, this is like I want to keep covering the debates, the oncoming election cycle. I also want to keep talking about things like I want to start breaking down the Constitution article by article. I think it'd be a wonderful thing to do. It's a nice refresher for myself. I don't know if anybody out there who's listening would actually need it, but things like that. I'm always open to suggestions. I'm always open to news stories. If you have any cool links on news stories or anything that you want me to try and check out topic-wise, send them my way. I'm on Twitter at oldheartinspace. You can find us on Instagram at oldheartradio. Keep us informed of what's going on in your part of the world, and I'll keep you informed on as much as I can about the rest. So, keep your brain on. Do your thing. I believe in you. This has been another episode of You Snooze, You News. June 28th, signing out.